job, for one thing. We all have the same interests, we all have a family, and we all want to talk about our own.
And there's a lot of talking going on the first Tuesday of every month at the Arts Resource Centre in Oshawa, as these amateur detectives try to solve the mysteries of their own family's past.
One married a Brant that was in Pickering, and I understood the Adams.
Bessie Gannon is one of the founding members of the Whitby-Oshawa Branch of the Ontario Genealogical Society, and like all of the members, she had a very personal reason for taking up the quest for her family's roots.
Once my children grew up, and then my mother was dying at the same time they were growing up, and I realized that if I wanted to study my family history, I'd have to find out now before she died. And she didn't realize that her illness was terminal, so one of my 12-year-old girls went in and sat down beside her and said, "Grandma, what do you remember?"
Bessie knows that the best place to start a personal investigation is with your own oldest living family members.
And she was the historian in the family and had always talked about her family and how they were related, but it was terribly confusing to me because I just didn't realize that you have 4 grandparents and then you double that for the great-grandparents and then you double that again and you end up with a lot of relatives.
And that's when the Genealogical Society can really help.
History. We have a saying that we have births, marriages, and deaths, or we have the hatched, the matched, and the dispatched, meaning the 3 dates. That is pedigree. Family history is being able to put skin and character into those bones. We also like to get people to come in and see whether or not we can help them. To the extent, come and see if you like our meetings, look and see what we have in materials, look at our pedigree charts, which are now beautifully done up in binders and have been indexed so that you know what name to look under, and you might find yourself with some information that's a help to you.
Okay, well, I'd like to start off by saying, don't be frightened of computers, they're just machines. Once you get your hands on them and start fiddling around, you can't do any great harm.
The monthly meetings always feature guest speakers. This time the subject is the internet.
You can go in, you can do a search. I have found more people in Ireland, relatives. What I do is make up a standard letter, and I'll go in and I'll get Murphy or O'Connor or O'Donnell, whatever I want, and all those names will come up, and I just post this standard letter off to them, and you'd be surprised the response you can get.
I found out something about my grandfather, who I never met. We thought he died in 1947. Then on the internet, we found out where he died in British Columbia. He died in 1957. So we don't know what happened in that 10 years. And that's something we learned on the internet.
But you won't find a computer in Bessie Gannon's genealogical room at home. She still prefers the more tangible paper trail.
I looked them up in what we call the IGI, the International Genealogical Index, which is at the Mormon Library, which is how we access information from other countries. And there she was. She was Joan Foley, and she was my great-great-grandmother. And I followed it down, and the marriage of my great-great-grandmother to my great-great-grandfather was right there, and I put the connection together immediately. Well, it's surprising what that led to.
And the surprises along the way are just part of the fun of genealogical research. It's a hobby that brings history to life.
Because when you have a building, you have somebody who has lived in it, someone who has been there, and you get names, and names are where you get information. For it is from your names that you get your families. And from your families, you get your tree. And that's how you get your roots.
We might be doing Irish in April.
Yeah, April.
Yeah, there's other things I'm working on, but I have been...
And once you resolve to get started, it's hard to stop.
And the man right off the bat says, you know, I'm not going to do this only just a very short time. I give myself 3 months to do my family history, and that's it. I'm not going to spend my life at this. And about 6 months later, I happened to be over at the Mormon Library, and there he was. I said, and what did I tell you at the time? I thought you were only going to do this for a short time. He said, well, you said it's like eating peanuts. You get started and you can't stop. He said, you're absolutely right. It just grows on you.
And all the other members of the group are quick to echo those sentiments.
It's a challenge. It's like doing a jigsaw puzzle, but you have to find the pieces before you can even put them together. And also, I want to leave something for my children. And this is something that they will have that's theirs and theirs alone.
And if you're contemplating taking up the search for your own family's roots, here are some final tips from Marion Lapp.
It's more easy to trace a notorious or a notable person than it is to have somebody who has just been the average person who has lived their life within their own confines. Get someone who's been arrested, get someone who has been elected to an office, and then you start and find that your history really does have spice.
In Durham Region, I'm Judy Kalo.
I do know that.